Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session of Talking Tech, Women and Girls in ICT. My name is Chenxin Liu, and today I am delighted to be having a discussion about tech and tech careers with interviewee Miss Arlene Harris. She is an accomplished entrepreneur, inventor, investor, and policy advocate in the telecommunications industry. She's widely recognized as a pioneer in mobile and wireless enterprise and an innovator of consumer products and services. She was the first woman inducted into the Wireless Hall of Fame in May of 2007 and was named into the Consumer Technology Hall of Fame in 2017. But first, what is Talking Tech? Talking Tech is a series celebrating girls and women in tech. It's being recorded around the world between Girls in ICT Day 2020 and Girls in ICT Day 2022. Girls in ICT Day is an international day marked on the fourth Thursday of each April. The objective? It's to help create a global environment that encourages young women to consider studies and careers in the field of ICT, which stands for Information and Communication Technologies. The Talking Tech series is brought to you by the ITU, UNICC, and the Office of the UN Secretary General's Envoy on Youth, and it's in support of Equals, the Global Partnership for Gender Equality in the Digital Age. Hi, Ms. Harris, and thank you so much for joining me today. To kick things off, would you mind introducing yourself a little bit to our audience and talking about what your current activities are?
Well, thanks, Grace. It's just an honor to be here and to be recorded for your virtual events on computer. I'll give you a little bit about my background and then we'll talk later about things that I'm working in now. I grew up in Los Angeles during the 50s and 60s. I grew up in a mobile telephone family, a family business, and I worked for a little while with the airlines back in the late 60s. And during that time, there were no automated ticketing. Everything was done manually at the airlines. It was pre-computers. And I happened to get in right on the beginning of that conversion from going from small airplanes to big airplanes. And because we went from small airplanes to big airplanes, we had to automate an awful lot of what airlines did and what airports did. I took that experience onto my family's wireless business, and we worked in the personal services of wireless. We did certain services first in wireless in Los Angeles in my family's business. And later I took those experiences on and applied them in the up and coming cellular business, which started in commercial service in 1983. Had done several startups in wireless. I currently have a broadband startup that I've been working on, and I sit on several advisory boards of universities. And I have nonprofits that I work with. So a whole variety of things that I'm doing now, but you will see a theme based on my background that has to do with making sure that you accept every experience, good or bad, as you grow through your career. You're never going to know when you're going to be able to reach back and use something that you learned when you were 18 or 22 or 30. So that you'll see in my discussions later that really is a theme. Everything grows, even if they don't seem to be connected. They grow into a whole experience, and you end up with some wisdom rather than just education.
Wow, you must be incredibly busy.
When did you get into technology, Grace?
So I guess it would start when I was young, a young girl because I grew up in the digital age, and I remember, I mean, even when I was very, very young, I would always be fascinated with playing around with intricate designs and puzzles and numbers. And I remember loving to spend time working on like complex math problems. And I think I didn't really narrow down, in a sense, where I love technology so much until I was selected into the Institute of Creative Problem Solving for Gifted and Talented Students at a state university of New York at Old Westbury, and this was in 2020. So this was where I got the experience to really get hands-on experience working with technology and electronics and programming, and it was so surreal seeing. I worked on a four-person team to code a robot that we built up from a basically like a little kit that they provided, but it was very intricate, and it was very amazing seeing the robot like come together and moving around with the app that we use to control it. And I think that was the moment that I really realized that I really resonated with how powerful technology is. And since then, I've been trying to incorporate technology into my everyday life. And I'm always trying to stay up to date with what's going on in technology. But
Fascinating.
now, back to you. What do you like best about working in technology?
Since I've worked in the technological fields for just about 6 decades, I think probably the thing that's inspired me the most is that there's always something new, that we are continue to build on the old technologies, and there's always some new thing that's going to help you solve problems that either haven't been solved before or now can be solved in better ways than they have been in the past. Problem solving is the most important incentive that I have to be in the technological world. It's not to build games or entertainment or other things that are more or less done because of leisure. I'm very interested in problem solving. How can we use the things that are coming along to improve the way we address things that give people can be made better, where you can make people's lives better? So that's the important part of my interest in technology, is problem solving. The new technologies always create, and especially if you realize there was a problem you didn't know about before, your creative juices get flowing. And it's really lovely when you've had a problem and some new technology comes along, and all of a sudden you see a light at the tunnel, because now you can adopt that, do something that just was limited prior to that. So it's all about improving the quality of life and doing things that stretch the limits, to make the things that you're doing in technology mean something to real people, to really be grounded in the reality of everyday life and not technology for technology's sake. And by the way, there is a place for that, because years ago, we were playing with robots. It was really, we need to figure out what we can do with these things. And then we figure out, okay, now we can take and apply them to a service of humanity. But at the end of the day, my career has been out at the other end, where we're really trying to apply technologies for real people. I'd ask you the same question. What do you like most about what you're now doing in technology?
I actually completely agree with you, because that's what I find the most fascinating about technology. It's the way that you can design so many innovative solutions to problems that impact so many people in society, in the real world today. And the way that you can use it as a tool to, like you said, improve the quality of life. And I personally I'm a big researcher and advocate for the issues of gender equality and sustainable development in living. And I love going into STEM about this, STEM topics about this. And I find that technology, it really just provides you with a whole new world, for a lack of a better term, because it's like, I mean, a couple of years ago, I feel like we wouldn't have even imagined how far we've come today and how many new solutions that we've provided to so many problems. So that's definitely what I love most about technology, because I'm a very like practical, like get things done kind of person, and I'm very solution oriented, I feel like, just like you. So in a nutshell, I completely agree with you. Technology, my favorite way to use it is to see it be applied to the real world. And
Terrific.
thank you.
Terrific.
Can you share an example or two of things that you've done in or with technology that you're particularly proud of?
I guess probably, starting in my early career, I had a long period of time when I was actually learning how to frame the solutions that I was coming up with, because I got that education at the airlines. And that was an education before anybody else had computers. So I was able to see things being done in that environment that were end-to-end solutions. They were, how do you start with a process, start with a flow, and see that objective from that point flow through to a solution. So to give you an example of one of the things that I did in the 80s, which was right after cellular started, I designed and managed the development of something that is often referred to as stored value system. But it was really the first incident of people paying for their cellular service before they got to use it. And it sounds a little simple now, but the systems behind what it took to do that, even in a rudimentary way, which was our first tackling this. It's not the way it works today, but just to make it happen back then was quite a feat. And the idea being that there were reasons that credit and sort of managing the amount of cellular service you used was really important, because it was really expensive back then. It just wasn't, the cost of cellular service kept a lot of people from having cellular service. And one of the most important things that cellular phones did for people was made them safer, especially when they were out on the road, or when they had portables, they walking around. Portable cellular and mobile telephone service made people's lives safer. So we implemented this prepaid. It became known as prepaid. And today, most of the people in the world actually access their cellular service after they paid for it. So you put in $50 and you use $48 and you get a ping and it says you better add some more money. You have methods of doing that, and you can continue on with your service. So prepaid is like buying gas at the gas station. Your car won't run unless you put gas in it. So that was probably my proudest thing, because that started that process. And like I said, over half of the people in the world use prepaid methods to pay for their service. The thing that I've done recently is implemented a consumer service that is in the US is called Jitterbug. And it's a phone service. Samsung was my partner, and they built a custom cellular phone for my service that allowed people that were that were technophobic or resistant to change. It allowed them to use cellular service. And again, in that case, primarily for safety, as our target market was mostly people who were older and had not been able to adopt cellular service. So we made the entire experience simple for them. It was a simple phone. We had simple service. We had simple billing. We had operators to help them make calls if they needed help. You could call the operator if you needed help. So it was all very custom built for seniors. So that those two, the prepaid service and the jitterbug service, are the things that probably may have made the most impact that people that are listening to this discussion would understand. What you're proud about? What tell me about that, Grace?
Yes, of course. Thank you. First of all, I just want to mention that my first phone was actually prepaid, and I remember just loving it so much, and it was so much more convenient, and also the novelty of having, my first phone. And I think your jitterbug, it's so, I just want to highlight how important I think it is and how significant I think it is, because technophobia is an issue today, especially now that I know everything is like shifting to being digital. So those who don't accept digital technologies for whatever reason, they're just not as connected and they're not able to access as many opportunities. And it's just, so you making this is just incredible. And now back to your question. In the past 3 years, I've been very blessed to work on a couple of 10, I think over 10 international projects. And that's where I've been researching and advocating while using technology. So I'm a part of these global programs called the Junior Academy and the 1,000 Girls, 1,000 Futures program of the New York Academy of Sciences. So in those programs, I get the chance to work with self-made teams from teams that consist of, people and students like me from all over the world who are dedicated, and they have these like challenge seasons that where we form the team and then we follow the prompts that they give us, which is like a certain problem in the real world today. And we design the best solution that we can in 2 months. So the projects that I've
Wow.
done there are what I'm the most proud of. And because both were based on teamwork, I feel like I've learned so much in that aspect, learning and how to manage a project. I think since there were a lot, but I want to highlight two main ones. Of course, I love the other ones, but just want to go into these two because they're a lot more technology based. So the first one was where our project designed a satellite based approach for trying to bring electricity to the most vulnerable groups in sub-Saharan Africa. And we ended up kind of branching our findings out and being cited by the United Nations, which was extremely an incredible experience and honor. And my second project, which was a lot fairly recently actually, it was designing and developing a telemedicine app called My Health. And this basically provided resources to address the problem of climate change and heat-induced health problems, especially in underserved communities in Miami, Florida. So that actually won the first place prize for the global challenge. And I love the team so much. And I love both teams so much. I love all of my teams because it was just so amazing working with those people and also learning more about how we can use technology in a certain way and really applying it through real life, hands-on practice. So I'd say that's, what I've done a little, but I think I'm sure you've, you know, you have had decades of experience in tech, so I'm sure there have been like hurdles and challenges along the way. So what's a lesson that you learned in tech that you'd like to share with the viewers?
Most important things that I encourage is that even your worst experiences are character building and will build your wisdom about what you're doing in the future. So I can express, even if you're doing something that's with your church or with your Girl Scouts, or if you're, on vacation and you have a different experiences, all those experiences can be used to help you refine the way you approach the things you're doing in technology. If you're choosing a technology career that is going to have you creating new experiences, delivering solutions, whatever it is. So don't ignore some of the lessons that you get along the way. I think one of the things that's becoming more and more important, and that I've railed about my whole career, is our technology people who don't think things through, where they're transactional and they're simply going in and doing some piece of something without understanding the implication of what it is. And I think a lot of our problems today have happened because you can do something and not whether you should do something. So it's really important not to let yourself be lazy about learning what you need to know about the sides of the work that you're doing. Even if you're not an expert, we do understand, based on what you just said, Grace, is that these things today happen in teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but you can't just put your blinders on and say, well, someone over there is doing this and someone over there is doing that, and I'm doing this, and not try to just let yourself understand the scope of what you're doing. Because I think that your value judgments are really becoming more and more important. We talk about, technology has no morals, technology has no ethics. It's just they're tools, and they're things that we manipulate now, and they can be implemented for good and for bad purposes. And there are lots of things that will end up having unintended consequences. And I think probably one of the things that's important is that if you do something that and the results are unintended and not good, that you have at least an interest, maybe not an obligation, but an interest in making sure that they get fixed. Another thing about, working in technology is it's really important that you have empathy. If you're building technology for your users and for the people that are going to fix your technology when it breaks, so that you have an understanding of what it takes to sustain what you do. It's too easy to just build a bunch of stuff and throw it over the transom and make it somebody else's problem. So your personal ability to be empathetic towards users and maintenance people and your colleagues that are building things, that's just, to me, that's, just a critical character issue for people that are moving into technology. And again, it takes teams to do things. It's really important that you respect your team members. Many people think that they're the center of the universe because they know how to do this or they know how to do that. Well, trust me, that's in almost everything we do today, that's only a piece. And you take a piece out of the chain and it breaks. So everybody in that chain, project to the end, they have a role to play, and you have to let them and respect their roles as being an important part. And the last thing I'd say is really important that as you go on and grow in either in commerce or in government or in nonprofits, that you learn how to promote your ideas. If you're an idea person, especially, if you're good at solving problems and you see problems that other people don't see or solutions that other people don't see, you have to get support because, again, you have to build a team. The bigger the team, the more expensive, the more money you need, the more supporters you need. Probably you'll end up needing more customers or more users. So it's really important that you learn that just putting your head in a computer and that skill, and your desires are what you need to be able to communicate to other people. And that way you can actually get things done. Otherwise, they're just ideas. And ideas, as people will tell you, the older you get, ideas are a dime a dozen. It's actually getting those ideas into reality, to make them happen. So those are the kinds of things that I would say that those are important things to me. And I don't think that's just technology, that's life. So, and you've encountered challenges in your young life, my dear Grace?
Yes, I think so. And many of these challenges are actually related to, technology going awry. So back to the team projects that I talked about before, I think a lot of the challenges were really, well, first of all, there's, of course, the obvious ones like trying to coordinate everyone, especially because everyone was from around the world. So the time zones are different, and it was just such a pain to actually settle a time to meet and to implement the project, like you said. And I think a second major challenge is, I think that relates back to what you just said about how ideas turning into reality is the hardest part. And I've encountered that too, especially when I feel like you're young. And even this is applicable to girls too, because there's biases here. I feel like, I personally experienced just not having the support that I need and I want because of my age, because of my gender. And this kind of lack of support, it goes to like in terms of money, in terms of even just believing in you and whether or not your idea can work. Because I think, um, especially because people, I've had people say to me before, like, oh, you're so young, what are you doing in so and so, what are you doing in technology and all that kind of stuff, just kind of looking down at you because they feel like you're
Yeah.
inexperienced. And although yes, I have a lot to learn, and I'm very happy that I have a lot to learn because that's what makes the process so much more fun, it's also very discouraging when people look down upon you and say that you can't do so and so and put a box around what you can accomplish, basically, because of something that is predetermined. I can't decide how many days I've lived on this earth. I can't decide really my gender. So, and I love being a girl, don't get me wrong, but it's just, I think these are the major challenges that I encountered, and I really want to keep in mind your word of advice from just now, moving forward, because it can be difficult to deal with these setbacks sometimes from other people, but also I think being focused and keeping in mind your mission and what you love and your goal is important in helping you get through this. But back to you. Have you encountered any challenges along the way that kind of you learned these lessons from these challenges? And if so, how did you overcome them?
You need to be able to sell your ideas. And, because we are women and tech is still a very male dominated, promoting your ideas is a skill. There's only a small percentage of people who have natural selling or persuasive capabilities. Promoting your ideas and selling your concepts and selling yourself so that people will back you up is a skill. And you need to learn the skill. So I can't express that any stronger. That's really important. And in college, you don't usually take selling courses. You don't usually take courses of persuasion. But I tell you, it is important for you to learn those skills. The most important thing is that money is what moves the needle. Very few big successes are done through volunteerism, even though volunteerism is crucial to our economy and to our lives and whatever. The things that really move the needle of progress in technology are paid for. So raising money, making sure that the fuel that you need to make your ideas come to life, that's one of the things that you have to then rely on. And so if you ask me, and in many cases, after I made my first amount of money, I spent my own money promoting my ideas. So it was tougher to be taken seriously, and in technology and in wireless in particular. There were very few women in our industry. The women's roles were all the soft skills of PR, HR, marketing, whatever. And very few women were involved in the actual building of a product, and even much fewer in the positions of decision making. So if you're looking for a career path, focus on the decision maker that you want to be, because even though you need teams to run things, you also need leadership. And the people that are leading things are typically the ones that are making decisions, and they're also the ones whose necks are on the chopping block when things don't work. So you have to be sort of a risk taker to be in a position like that. Let's see. Insofar as today, things are loosening up in terms of raising money for women's things. I think probably the most difficult thing for me is that I always did something that no one's ever done before. In the case of Jitterbug, I wanted to build a technological solution that wasn't a medical device. I wanted to build a technological solution to a market that was really kind of unknown. Selling technology back when I started Jitterbug, there was no market for technology for senior citizens. So that was a real challenge to get financing to build that business without there already have been a proven market for technology. That's again, it goes back to how do you get people to help you by giving you money or support of some sort to get your ideas to fruition. In that case, we were able to, after I spent my own money, getting us to a point where we could prove it, that people would want it, that's when I finally got some money. If I was a guy doing that, I probably would have gotten money a lot sooner. That's years ago. We're talking about 25 years ago. So I think it's easier now, but
still difficult.
Yeah. And even if you're not raising money, but you're trying to get something done internally in your organization, if you work for an organization, it's what are the resources of your organization being spent on? And that, again, it's an asset that your company or your nonprofit or whatever, they're spending resources. And again, if you want to spend the company to spend resources on your ideas or back you up, you got to be able to convince them to do that. So everything, even if you're not going into tech or you're going into some other field, it's even if you're a doctor, you have to sell your patients on the idea that they need to take care of themselves. So what about you?
I think, well, I kind of talked about my challenges from before, and I feel that really overcoming them took it's a lot of like part of your mindset, I feel like. And in the beginning, I remember when a couple of years ago, many years ago, I remember I feel like I'm a different person now even because many years ago, I had the mindset of that I just couldn't really get anything done. I didn't really have that sort of self-confidence that is needed to sell yourself, advocate for yourself. And really, there was a big shift in my mindset, which it changed into because I feel like I one day I just really resonated with and realized that you are the only one who can advocate for yourself. And if you are the one, if you are constantly putting yourself down, thinking that I can't do this, I can't do that, that's not what normal people do, then you can't really get anything done, to be frank. Like you can't
Mm-hmm.
you see all the, successful entrepreneurs out there and CEOs, they had to sacrifice a lot. And I'm sure they had so many people jeering at them and saying that this is ridiculous, criticizing them, but they still did it. And that's why they're able to make it up there to the top. So I think this kind of really settled with me. And that's where I really saw my path in terms of research and advocacy, what I love to do. That's where I really saw it to shift because I started to, apply to a lot of programs and awards and stuff that I didn't think that I would be able to do, or I didn't think that I would be accepted before. But when I changed my mind and I said, you know what, I might as well give it a shot because no one else is going
Right.
to find me and give me an award, even if I have the most amazing technological skills out there. No one will find you and award the award for me unless there's just awards out there there's exceptions, but I'm saying when you're starting out, no one will be able to realize your strengths and your skills and your talent unless you promote that yourself, starting by promoting yourself and advocating for yourself. So that really, I think that key thing changed my life, and it's what has helped me get through a lot of the challenges that I face today.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Mhm.
For
So
sure.
since this
Or-
is a series about girls and women in tech, do you have any specific career or advice about technology for girls and younger women in tech?
I think one of the more important things that I see leading to a more successful career is that you, besides understanding the technology, I think about understanding technology today being like reading or math. It is it's a kind of all across skill. How you apply it is really critical in deciding which way you want to go. That means you need to understand something besides tech deeply. So what I mean by that, if you're going to be a computer science person, if your practice is computer science, you're to fulfill your own better self, you probably ought to know something about the field that you would want your computer science activities to be targeted toward. So for example, as computing and biology and engineering sort of meld together, what do you know if you're a computer scientist, isn't it a more robust background to be able to say, I'm learning about computers and how to compute and how to code and do all these things, but I'm also interested in biology. And even though I may not be a biologist, I want to use my skills as a computer scientist to improve the processes and to improve the computing that's needed as we merge biological sciences with computing. So today, I don't think you can really narrow yourself down and say, and really have a purpose. I mean, if you want to go through life, job to job to job, just trying to find more money, then that's a different approach. But if you want to actually make a difference, it's very likely that you're going to be focused on a field. You might want to go into automotive. You might want to go into SpaceX. You might want to build robots like you, Grace. So I think that that's really, really important. That you know how you want to apply the technological skills that you've got. And you might, in business, we would call that a vertical. I hate to use that because verticals are all kind of melding together and they're not so vertical anymore. So, and tech right now is no longer just an enterprise tool. I've had a conviction for a long time now, probably the last, I'd say 10 years, that the way computing and technologies have gone, that the instincts and the insights and the abilities of women to be more appropriate in the problem solving of the things that we need to do now in the stages that technology have gotten to, it far exceeds the boys. When you think about the cognitive science getting integrated, when you think about healthcare, when you think about taking care of people, all of the technology that's being used to do that, a lot of the sensitivities and sensibilities are better framed in the attitudes and sensibilities of women than they are for men. Because we do know that even as babies, boys are more gadget oriented and women are softer and have more, it's our nature. So to some extent, I don't think we should turn our back on that. I think that technology shouldn't be robotic. You know, I think technology needs to serve us as humans. So that's what I would say is learn something deeply and try to integrate that with the way the world is now evolving into these skills and education that cross over into multidisciplinary solutions. What are your plans?
My plans, well, currently I feel like first of all, your word of advice is incredibly helpful, and it really applies to me because I feel like that the work that I'm doing is very intersectional and across disciplinaries, and that's a part of the reason why I enjoy it so much, because there's just so many complexities that you can dive into. So I'm currently working on two main projects, and this will be continued for the rest of the year and beyond, I hope. So the first one is I'm in the process of finalizing a book titled Research to Empower, and this will be a guidebook for young students to address the lack of research support and information for aspiring young researchers. And this will be a supplement to the K-12 curriculum. And that's my current project. There's going to be I'm going to have a website with a lot of additional resources on there, and I'm currently designing a course online to go along with that too. So that's a huge project that I'm trying to undertake, but it's really, I love it so much, and it's why I'm waking up every day, I feel like. And um, my second project is my own research project, which is on modeling uncertainties and gender type differences in entrepreneurial decision making. So this is why I'm just so interested in the differences and the reason why women have been barred from being able to pursue leadership and entrepreneurship roles. And this is where I'm introducing behavioral economic theories and applied mathematics into gender studies. So it's very intersectional, and that's basically what I'm currently working on, two huge projects that will last me
Right.
for a while. But
So
what about you?
So Grace, your research, sorry to go off script, but your research is when you talk about this, getting students to do research, are you talking about, are they doing technological research or more cultural and, sort of socials research?
So I'm introducing mainly just broad research as an introduction to research. I would say that it's a bit more towards the social science research end because it's easier to introduce that, I feel like, and you don't need to, I mean, social science research is by no means easy, trust me.
I got it. I
And
know.
yeah, but I feel that I'm not a professor in how to like analyze data with these complicated tools. I mean, there's like a ton of textbooks on how to do that on its own. So I feel like it might kind of defeat the purpose and hinder the the ultimate goal of this book is to excite students and to introduce them to research because I want them to realize that it's a tool that they can use to empower themselves, to learn more about themselves and the world around them. So that's the main goal of the book. I'm not really going into as many technicalities, but I am leading them with a lot of resources in my book to where they can find how to get into technical research if that's what they want to do, or mathematical research if that's what they want to do, or medical research, and so on. I have like a huge, I call it a treasure chest of opportunities and resources that students can pursue because I know that research is so broad, so I try to cover more in that. So I hope that answers your
Yeah.
question though.
Yeah, I've got it. It's a category of endeavor rather than a specific why you would want to do research and what's the outcome and how is it used. And those would be very interesting, I think.
What about you though? What are your plans and next steps?
I sit on several boards and am working on some projects with academia. But I've got a startup that I've done. I've got it slowed down just because of the personal situations and the economy, and the COVID slowed us down and actually changed our course. So I'm working on those kinds of things, and again, they are problem solving things, and that's what I'm really, hoping to turn back on again here soon. So in the meantime, there's a lot of work that's got to go on in universities and to get things back and getting them on course after COVID. It's been a real disruption of our lives for a long time.
Yeah, I think that's amazing, and I can't wait to see where you're heading and what amazing things you'll create. So I think it is time to start to wrap things up. Do you have any final messages that you would like to share with the girls or just any viewers out there?
I think probably most of the messages that I've expressed are, in my previous answers. I will add one though. I think it's really important that as you're developing your career, that you make sure that you maintain connections with the relationships you're making with people that you like and people that you trust. Um, don't let those relationships escape your contact list and the like, because the people that you learn to like and trust early in your life may oftentimes be the ones that are most important, later in life. People that you've helped, people that have helped you. It's just a critical thing. And probably the last and most least obvious is that, especially as an entrepreneur. Now, this is people young girls who are wanting to go out and build something themselves, to be their own boss, to do all the things that you really think you want to do. And I want to be very clear. Going on that path is not for the faint of heart. And what's really important is that you understand the trade-offs that are going to have to be made with your time and your focus with other things that also may be important to you, especially your family. So having your family support and taking the steps that you're going to take and having them back you may take some of those selling skills that we've talked about earlier. But it's really important, because if you start on a course where you're going to have lots of conflict with your family and your family situation and the time that you need for your family, these are the kinds of things that later in life you will, if you don't make the right decisions and use the right balancing techniques, you'll be very sorry for, or you may be very sorry for. So go wide open, eyes wide open, and make sure your family's a strong supporter of what you want to do. So I think that probably covers most of the things that I can share.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing this. I personally am resonating with this, and I'm sure the viewers out there are I'm inspired, and I'm sure the viewers out there are inspired too. So I think that wraps up our session today for Talking Tech, Women and Girls in ICT. Thank you so much again, Ms. Harris. I really enjoyed our chat today. And thank you so much to the viewers for watching.
It's been a total pleasure. Thank you, Grace. You're wonderful.